one of the most important uses for numbers, after all, is looking at measurements. And if you want to look at measurements and you want to measure things really carefully, you can measure it at a certain precision or a closer precision or even a refined precision. So the question is, how do you measure things with various degrees of accuracy? So, for example, you always see me using these pens. One question is, gee, what is the length of this pen? Well, to ask for the length of this pen really is asking for, well, what level of, or what degree of accuracy do you want for the measurement? For example, so here's a little ruler I made up. If you want to measure it just where the accuracy is just inches, then if we put it right at the end there, what's the nearest integer that estimates this length? Well, the nearest integer is actually going to be 3, because it's 3 and just a little bit. It's not over the halfway point where it would be then closer to 4. So in fact, if you want me just to measure this and the degree of accuracy is just going to be inches, I'd say this is 3 inches. Fine. What if I say the degree of accuracy is actually going to be in half inches? So you're allowed to actually use half inches. Well, then what's the nearest half inch that it's coming to? Well, then I would actually leave 3, and I would actually go to 3.5, because notice that it's actually closer to 3.5 than to 3, because it's over the halfway point in between them. So in this case, I would say that the measure of this pen is 3.5 if the degree of accuracy was now measured in half degrees. What if the degree of measure was in quarter degrees? Well, then I would say that the measure would be 3 1/4, because notice the pen ends just a little bit past 3 1/4. It's closer to 3 1/4 than 3.5. And so the estimate here would be 3 1/4. So does that mean that my original answer of 3 was wrong? Well, for the exact length of this, yes, it's not exactly 3. But if we were just asked to measure it with a degree of accuracy of inches, then the correct answer is 3. Half inches, it would be 3.5, and quarter inches would be 3 1/4. But the important thing to realize is that these are just all estimates. The actual length of this pen is actually a much, much more complicated number that even this ruler won't allow me to read. Lengths are really, really tricky to measure, and that's why we have to know the degree of accuracy that's desired.